Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Rich, getting ready to install the heat cable in my heated floor system. In my bathroom, I'm going to be installing floor heat all throughout the master bathroom, including the shower. And initially, I was thinking that I would use one long cable to go in and out of the shower and do the whole heat of the bathroom with one cable. However, after speaking with some technical advisors at Schluter, it was recommended that I use two separate cables. One cable specifically dedicated for the shower, and then another cable to handle the rest of the square footage in the master bathroom. I will still use one thermostat because I can connect multiple cables if I wanted to, as long as they don't go over the 15 amp requirement that Schluter indicates for their thermostat. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and I will show you in detail how I go about installing this cable to get it ready for tiling. So the first thing I need to do before I even get started laying cable out or even opening the box is I want to go ahead and locate where my vanities are going to be within the bathroom. And I want to make some marks on the floor. I'm going to use a Sharpie just to kind of put a marking down so I know where the vanities will be placed, so that I don't, when I start putting the wire down, I don't actually get close enough to it. So you want to keep a good distance away from the cabinets. Actually, I believe it's 2 inches away from the walls that you want to be, and any cabinets. So I'm going to be marking those out. Since I know that it's going to be here, I'm just going to run a line all the way out to there. And I'm going to run it right along here so that I know my cabinet is going to be right in that space. So 64 3/4 is right about here. I'm just going to go over one just to make it easy to make the line, and that'll be sufficient. So we're going to go all the way across here to that mark, and we're going to go across there. For toilets, you got to keep it 7 inches from the center line of the drain pipe. So 7 inches is right here. So we'll just make it 8, just to be sure. And let's see, 8 inches is going to be right here. Inches is going to be, so we'll just say right here. So the front of the toilet is going to be right here. So I definitely don't want to go past this line. And I know that it is, I think it's 9 inches from side to side. Let's do 10.5 inches. So here and here. Yeah, I don't want it to go inside this area because this is going to be the toilet. And so it's a little bit off, but that's fine. I mean, it's not going to be a big deal. I'm not going to get close to it anyway, so I just want to make sure that I don't put the wires anywhere past that point. And I probably won't go past this area, to be honest. I'll just go around because I do want the area right around your feet to be toasty, nice and toasty right here, but really anything past this point is really not even necessary. Okay, so we got my 2 sets of cables that I purchased. One cable is going to be used for the shower, and the other cable is going to be for the rest of the master bath. Now what you need to do as you measure your square footage for the room, you need to account for subtracting the areas that are not going to be heated in the space. So obviously around shower drains, around toilets, around the vanities that you might have, and any floor registers. If you have floor registers, you need to stay away from that. So you really need to take all that into consideration in terms of your total square footage that you're going to need to heat the floor, because you don't want to buy more than you need, because you cannot cut these cables. You have to use the full amount, so you need to buy the exact length that you need so that you don't have overage. I knew that I needed to get one that was roughly 3 square feet, so I purchased this one so that it would cover that area. And then I purchased another one for the remaining square footage. So this is the longer run, and combined they still don't make up 15 amps. So you're only got 1.1 amps on the one for the shower, and then for the rest of the bathroom I'm at 6.8. So roughly about 8 amps when is going to be drawn off the single breaker, and it's a dedicated breaker. It's a 20 amp breaker, so I have no issues with that. And what you want to make sure when you get it is you order the appropriate voltage. Mine, since I'm using a 120 volt circuit, you want to make sure that you get 120 volt cables. And if you're going with the 240, you want to go with 240 cables. Let's go ahead and open these up, because we need to go ahead and get them out so that we can start the process. Now, it comes with two floor sensors, and they're basically redundancy you're only going to really connect one to your thermostat, but if for some reason one of the sensors ends up going bad on you, you have a second one that you can connect to the thermostat because you've already pre-run it in the floor. It's just going to be run in there. I also have 2 more in here, and then they're going to give you another one within the thermostat itself. I may run a third, because they only say you only need to run 2 to have 1 backup. I may run a third just as another backup, but aside from that, I don't think I'm gonna have way too many sensors. I'm not gonna need them. But in any case, comes with 2 sensors, and then you have your cable, and then it comes with pretty complete instructions. So in these instructions, they indicate that you need to test the cable and the sensors for continuity and for resistance. So you want to test the cable, make sure that it's not damaged before you install it. Then they want you to test it after it's been installed. And then they want to do a third test after everything has been tiled, to make sure that there isn't any issues. So there's a log that they give you, the instructions here on how to test it, and then they also want you to write down your results of the tests as well. So so it's good to go ahead and include these numbers, because it actually will be referenced when you register your product and cover the warranty. And you just want to make sure that your readings fall within 10% of what the factory has indicated it ought to be. First thing that we need to do is get your ohm meter and put it to the resistance ohm test. So I'm going to move it to the ohms indicator, and we're going to go ahead and test these 2 leads and touch them and see what reading we get. So 105.2.1, and what I was supposed to be at was 105.3. So that is within the parameters that is acceptable. And then after I get done, we'll test it again and put it there, and then we also have a final test after we tile. So let's move on to the ground braid continuity tests. We need to adjust our digital meter to continuity, which it's already there. I just need to change the function to continuity, and now it's on continuity test. So we just need to test, basically touch one lead to one of the hot leads and one of these multimeter leads to the ground. We're getting at OL, which is basically an infinity overload, so it's good. And then we can try it again with the white one to make sure that it's not, and we're good there. So now we want to go ahead and test the thermostat sensors, and we have it on ohms here, 9.55, 9.56. And then sensor 2 is 9.6, 9.6. 9.65. Alright, so all of these are pretty close to each other. So it really is dependent upon the temperature in the room. So evidently I'm a little bit warmer than 77 in here. I'm not sure. But it's fairly consistent across all the temperature sensors, so I'm fairly confident they're in good shape. So the last thing we need to do is to measure this one. 18.2, 18.1, 18.2. That's continuity across. Nothing there, and nothing there, so we're okay. And now I've got it all logged in, and so now we can go ahead and begin installing the cable. So the first part of the installation of the heat cables is to fish the leads up the wall. So previously, during the electrical stages, when I had all the walls opened up, I installed the electrical box for the DITRA heat thermostat, so that it could be mounted on the wall. So you want to take a look at the video that I had done installing that, and I can put that in the description below. But essentially, I installed this box, and I ran 2 pieces of conduit down the wall, and was able to kind of notch this piece of floor plate a little bit to be able to access, so that the wire can bend up into that conduit. So I'm gonna run the leads on the outer conduit line so that it has more space for the actual thermostat when it goes in. So the box is fairly deep, and I want to make sure that it has enough space. And I put a 2-gang junction box in here so that it has a lot more space for wire. But the one that's in the center, I'm going to use for the thermostat, for the temperature sensors, because those are a little skinnier wire. So now that I've fished the tape, it's just a matter of connecting the 2 sets of leads to that and then pulling it through. Now we can feed up the temperature sensor wires. So I'll fish it back down this other conduit line. I need to lay this flat, and they say to cut out a section of this membrane and embed this in there and glue it either with some mortar or with some hot glue to kind of keep it down. And I can slide this up and adjust how tight I want this once I chop this out, but I'm going to leave it for now. I'm just going to go ahead and run the wire, and then I'll come back to this and notch this out with a knife. I finished right here, and I wanted this end splice to be outside of the shower. I just, in case this ever got damaged or something like that, I'd rather not have it in a water area. But in any case, I would have come back with 3 on this, but there's a little bit of a separation between the membranes here when I laid it down, and it's there for good. So it's kind of a gap right here. That's why I kind of went to 4 spaces rather than 3, just so that it's snug up against it and tight and not coming up. And then I can lay this down. I may have to cut some of these to get this to fit down in there. Alright, let's see if I can tuck that in. So when you're laying out these, this pattern, the way that they've calculated the distances by square footage, so you know how much cable to purchase when you're purchasing it, they base it off a 3-stud spacing. And so that's generally what you want to do, is you want to have a wire, 3 studs, and then a wire, and then 3 more studs. And that's what I've generally been doing. But unfortunately, and you can do like alternating 3, 3, 2, 3, but you can't go 2, 2, 2. It's too much heat. I made my calculations based off of 3-stud spacing, and even 3 studs. And if you need to go to 2, you can. So the only reason I'm going to 2 on this particular line is because the gap between this seam of membrane is too wide, and the wire just kind of sits in there and doesn't is not locked into place. And so rather than taking a chance of nicking it when I'm trying to put the mortar down, I'm just going to move it over so that it's secured into place, and then I go back to 3 on the next one. So if you're wondering what I'm doing there, that was the reason why. This is just too wide. I was planning on putting it through here, but unfortunately the gap between the two seams is not. So I wish I would have planned for it, but it's hard to plan back here what this is going to end up looking like. But it's just you kind of have to play around with it and adjust it as you need. So let me keep going. Quick tip for you to go ahead and get a wood float. I made this one way back when for sanding drywall. I mean, I actually have a drywall pole, but for whatever reason I used this, and I had it for some other project, and it works really good. It's just a regular wood float, and you just want to make sure it's nice and smooth, and that these edges are rounded off and smooth so that it doesn't nick anything. And then as you're going, you just kind of push it down with the float as you're doing it, and it makes it a whole lot faster. You just make sure that, they say that if you go past 10 foot of a straight run, you have to put a little bit of a jog, what they call a little jog, which is like kind of a U-shape pattern, into it, so that I guess that it has good secureness so that it doesn't pop up when you're mortaring the bed down, and it just has a way for it to stay nice and snug and tight to the floor before you actually mortar. But since this whole distance is only 9 foot, and minus the cabinets, it's only like maybe 6 or 7, so I have no problem just going back and forth with it. You can see I initially had to kind of make a couple of jogs here to be able to finagle the area that I needed to heat that was missing from when I put in the shower wire. So I just had to kind of put a couple jogs in there. But as I'm working my way out, this one jog is going to go away pretty much by the time I get to this other cabinet. So should be fine, and it just makes it secure. The other thing is that these little things actually take up some space, take up distance. So if you ended up having too much wire, you can do some of these patterns. You can go 3-2, 3-2-3, so that you can use up more wire, and then you can also use some of these little jogging methods to kind of use up some wire, so that you don't, you have a place to put it, because you can't cross over the wire. It can't go perpendicular. Everything has to be parallel. So it took me a while to figure this little spot out, because that was where I didn't want to run. I was trying to run into the middle, but I was just continuing to have too much in the center here. So I needed to find a place to kind of have an overrun area. And I knew that my my vanity is going to give me about 4 inches of tile right here. It's not going to be right up against the wall. So I knew I could run some leftover right in here if I needed to. It's just enough, so I calculated pretty well. You know, and Schluter's website actually has a pretty good calculator to determine what you have. It's a little wonky in terms of, like, if you can do a diagram, but if you know the numbers and you just plug the numbers in and calculate, it gives you a pretty good sense of what you need. And I think this one was 11 square feet, and then this one was 64 square feet, so a total of 75. I was thinking more along the lines of like 84 square feet, but they you know, once you subtract the toilet and some other areas, because I was using 108, and that's the basic, you know, box that's here, you know, minus this wall, but I was including this partitioned wall, and I was including this partition wall, and plus the toilet. So once you subtract all that out, you really only needed 75 rather than 83 is what I had come up with. So it was actually good that I used their calculator, because it reduced the amount that I needed. Because if I would have gotten the one that was a little more, I probably would be worried, you know, trying to figure out how I'm going to use the wire that I had. I'd probably have to do a 3-2-3 or something like that to make it work. But for the most part, I got 3 stud patterns. You know, those few little spots right here where I had to do 2 because of the seam, and then also 2 right there because of the way the floor ended where the vanity was, and I was just trying to make that a little bit tighter of a line. A little bit of adjustments that I had to make right around here to make this work. But my overrun, my plan was to always kind of work my way around and have one line coming back here and then finishing this area up. So worked out well, I suppose. I mean, you could have done it a half a dozen different ways, I suppose, but this is what I ended up choosing. The one thing that I did want to make sure that I had was, since I'm using 3 different sensors, I wanted to run 2 of them in here. So I'm going to run the sensor right along this side wall right there, and then bring one here, and then bring the next one in the next row. Potentially I could do the 3rd one there, but I think maybe I might bring one out here. They say not to have the sensor right where the sunlight is, so because that will affect the temperature of the floor. So I definitely want to have it in kind of the shaded areas to make sure that these areas are warmed up. This might be a little warmer because of that situation, but I don't want this floor to be too cool because you know, the sensor's over here. So kind of keep that in mind, you know, making sure where your sensors are going to be. So that's what I was planning out here, was to make sure that I had enough gap to be able to run my sensor into one of these little pockets right here. Because I think we're going to go ahead and put the sensors right in this area, right in between these cables runs right here. So they want it in the center. So I need to kind of cut this one open so that I can lay it down in there. That fits good. There, that's nice and flat. And then I can put some membrane over top of it and seal it up so that it doesn't, so it's protected and it's still waterproof. Now And I just kind of ran back and forth so that the wire kind of stays in place. So now I can do the next one, do the same thing. Okay, so I need to go ahead and notch this out so that I can sink it down so that it's flush with this membrane. So I got it all complete. It took me a while to get this all notched out. I needed to actually notch a little bit of the subfloor away just to get it low enough so that it doesn't interfere with, you know, putting the tile down. So keep that in mind when you're, you know, trying to position this in, that you may need to, and essentially this is much higher than the actual DITRA heat membrane. So you definitely need to go lower than the actual membrane itself to notch some of the subfloor out. So if you're doing this over concrete, wow, I don't know what to tell you. Either you're gonna have to build up the amount that you lay down for the tile, and you'll have to kind of fudge it, and hopefully it kind of the thickness of the troweling overcomes it, or you have to kind of notch a little bit of the concrete subfloor out. So not really sure there, but thank goodness, you know, I'm on a wood subfloor and I can actually kind of, you know, chip away at some of the plywood. So that's essentially it for the installation of the wire. Not ready to put the thermostat itself on. I'll do that once everything is tiled and ready to go. And they say to actually not install this until a good week or more to 10 days after your tiling job is done, just to make sure that that the thin set can cure. I think this is going to do it for now. If you like this, please hit the like button or subscribe to my channel to get further updates on this bathroom remodel and other projects I might be doing. The next step for me is to begin the waterproofing process. So we'll be doing that on the next video, so stay tuned. Alright everybody, we'll see you later.